The Steam Gentleman. Trying out that new deeper voice. Let's try it again. New deeper intro. The Steam Gentleman. Seeing if my voice can hit those lower registers. Yes, we're back once again. A little bit of a quarantine edition. My entire household has been ravaged by influenza A. The only A's I think we're getting around here this month. Gonna start us off fast. I've got a set of apologies to issue from last week's episodes we get into. Firstly, an apology to Ralph Bacci, who I don't feel I talked to about enough. You know, if we're gonna talk about that age of animation and fantasy, really a true genius of his time. Go check out Heavy Metal. Go check out Wizards. You know, these are the types of things. All of them probably deserve. You know, the man probably deserves the entirety of his own episode. Just with all of us talking about it. So, a sincere, heartfelt apology to Mr. Bacci, however you pronounce your name. Not really sure. And I apologize for that too. We'll add it on to the apology list. Yeah. Secondly, and most importantly, I want to apologize to the original Little Mermaid, and that being manatees, okay, also known as the sea cow, an endangered species off the coast of Florida. That just really seals
AKA
it.
lazy dolphins.
Yeah, lazy dolphin. Yeah, good call. Lazy dolphin. But it just, let's also be honest here. I mean, if you don't know what I'm talking about, Google an image on a manatee, and that was originally thought to be a mermaid, which, in case you didn't know, clearly, if you were shipboard for months in the 16, 17, or 1800s,
probably battling the scurvy.
I guess you would want to fuck anything, because if you could mistake that for the mermaids of old, I'm just yar, Jim, there she be. She's right out there. She's calling to me, Jim.
Or delirious from
Possibly.
conditions, which is most likely the case of all sightings.
Yeah,
you're on a boat. You're on that boat for a long time.
I mean, but they do have each other. Let's be honest.
Yeah, but you have
that
zero
happens.
nutrition. You have very little water, and you're exposed to the sun almost 20 hours of the day. Those guys were tripping fucking balls by the time they came close to a port.
Right.
And then the only else they probably had in some sort of abundance is either the liquor they brought or the liquor they made. So
right?
Yeah.
Fucking gone by the time they got close to a port. Lord only, that's probably the nicest thing they came up with.
There's
just picturing that one
someone
dude jumping over the boat
full of seaweed.
Just picture that one dude jumping overboard, swimming towards the manatee. It's like, come back now, Roger. Come back. You're not gonna know what to do with it once you catch it. What are you talking about?
Yeah, that was probably what they're thinking. It's like, you don't know what to do with it when you catch it. Not like that's a bad idea. No one was thinking that. Everyone was like, you don't know what you're doing. Get back here. Let's talk about it. And damn it, I should have gone first.
All right. It's actually the sea sheep.
The sea sheep. Okay, well, there you go. I made all the more appropriate there.
Oh, you mean no one scientifically called it the lazy dolphin? No one? All right. Philistine.
Dolphinicus laziness. It's like the old Latin introductions to the Roadrunner and the Coyote. But It's the Birdman here with that introduction and with all of those wonderful images of your heads. And I guess a quick apology to any sailors from the 16, 17, or 1800s who are listening to the broadcast today. We'll get that out of the way too. I'm sure it was a lovely manatee. I'm sure it was, I'm sure it was beautiful.
Full Mike Jordan. Fuck
no
them
kink
kids.
shaming, man.
There's that. Yeah, fair enough.
No kink shaming.
I guess I was skirting that rule a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm telling you right now, if you survive 500 years and our words are what's gonna bruise your soul, then fuck you. That's the best I can tell you. Because you got this far. I don't know how you didn't get any harsh words yet. I mean,
maybe the way you live forever is by fucking manatee. Did we just write our own script?
Whoa, there we go.
Shit.
I'm telling you. Well, there's Outlander. Outlander is a show.
Where Ponce de Leon really did go.
I'm just saying, Outlander is a show. So crazier concepts have happened.
There can only be one man.
Yeah.
One man. But with that,
explain Sean Connery way more than anything else. actually puts a fire point on how Sean Connery's character came to be in Highlander, because there's no other way you explain it.
What do you mean you don't want to fuck the manatee?
Of course, Trebek. But in this corner, wearing the red shorts, coming out with a vengeance with his manager, Mr. Kim, we've got the Star Child over here today. How you doing?
Oh yeah, ready to tackle today's subject.
That's it. And we're gonna put a hurting on it. Is there gonna be a door it's gonna be put through, or a folding chair?
There's gonna be tables. There's gonna be chairs. There's gonna be a referee that never sees shit. There's gonna be everything. Never sees a damn thing. Always turned around, that referee. Yes, he is.
That's it. Well, in our other corner, coming into his first steel cage death match, we've got the man you'll never see. You never know which way it's coming from. The Three of Clubs, right here with his manager, whispering in his ear. What's going on there, RaShaun?
What did he do? How did he do? Couple of things. One, if we're going to throw out apologies, I'm going to go ahead and say we didn't have any steel chairs, any sort of table breaking, any sort of wrestling thing in our intro. And frankly, I blame all of us on that. Second, I've made it clear that my manager's easily Eric Bischoff. And three, if I may quote, a non-wrestler, but an entertainer just the same, 50 grand, I get this in one take. Over.
All right. Well, we can't beat that. Well, I think I'm the equivalent of Miss Elizabeth around here. For all of you going way back on that one.
So weird.
If nothing else. No, really, as we're gonna find out, I had the secret crushes on all the secondary characters. We'll get to all that as we're going on. But yes, today our subject is the art, the science, the sport, the dessert wax, the floor topping, whatever you want to call it, that is professional wrestling or semi-professional wrestling. Whatever it happens, it happens everywhere, from the big venues all the way up from Madison Square Garden, the old Boston Garden, dude, all the way out to the backyard somewhere in Arkansas. We are from a generation, and actually this goes back a long way, because one of my fonder memories is my grandfather Robert he was a tall dude. He was about 6'2", balding dude, and I remember he used to just turn on wrestling and get in that lazy boy of his and stretch that extra long frame of his out with a big beer belly that he had by that point in his life, and fall asleep watching wrestling. It was
awesome.
He just loved it. It was like after church on Sunday. That was exactly what this was,
because he knew what he was doing.
Yeah, this is as God intended it. That thing went way out. You know what I'm talking about, right? The feet up and all the way back, right?
Well done.
Just kind of watching over the bridge of his nose, and then 15, 20 minutes in, he'd be snoring away.
The recline in the recliner in that kind of chair is by name only. It's really either chair or bed.
Yeah, it would fit better, I think, on these planes with these extra long flights, with these 20-hour flights going to Asia or something. It's like, that's what I want, man. Come on. and put the wrestling. But yes, we are here to really talk about, well, what is wrestling? Is it a sport? Is it art? Is it something that we get really infatuated with and maybe channel some less than desirable violent impulses into? Really, what spot does it hold with in our?
It could be both.
Could be both. Could be all sorts of things. But we kind of wanted to, peel that back, because part of our mission here is talking pop culture and social commentary. And it's hard. I think if we're being honest with ourselves, there's no way we can't really just do, sit down. Amazed it's taken us this long and do a professional wrestling episode. So, I am excited about this. I have my own little corner of this I'm going to get to, but these two gentlemen, I know are these guys here. Sometimes I come in and, I got all my artsy fartsy and takes on things and all that, and I'm school, but here I'm just going to sit back and enjoy a little bit today and put my two cents worth in. So RaShaun, you won or lost the coin toss, depending on how you want to look at it. To get, we decided not to give you your comfort zone to work on it in the back of class today. So you are up front and center. Yeah. Snap into a Slim Jim.
All right. Yeah, sure. Why not?
You didn't like my Macho Man? Come on. I worked all night on that.
I mean, let's argue that I liked it so much that it was hard to get past. And it's weird that all of us keep referencing Macho Man, but we'll get to that. So anyway, we're going to start with story time. So gather around, children, get close, everyone. I have a little ditty and yarn to spin for you. Everyone get nice and close. Ben, Mr. Diesel, you too, come on in. You're going to want to pay attention because a former wrestler that we've also spoken about a few times, Mr. Batista, is lapping you as we are speaking. And from what I understand, if you want to go ahead and get that pet project that I keep reading about that you want to get done, that triple film on Genghis Khan, I think, like, come on, man, like you really need to get close and listen to the story time. So gather around, children. Here we go. And this is all going to tie into a pretty low bow. And if it does, it doesn't matter because hopefully got already smacked over the head with a steel chair and you're concussed completely. So anyway, I want to take you back to 1995, maybe 1996. I don't know. I don't care. No one cares about those details. The point I'm making is that I'm a young, scrappy teenager. Up north going to camp. Shout out to Northwood. Shout out to Pleasant Valley Camp. I see you all there. Shout out to Wolfsboro. Yeah, I'm shouting out a bunch of places in New Hampshire. Laconia, I see you. Mirror Lake. It was a great place. And while I was there, there's a lot of things that we did in our time. Now, you think that what I'm about to do is talk to you about some weird offshoot, table breaking, 15-year-olds doing some backyard wrestling. Not even fucking close, not even remotely, but there was violence involved. So for whatever reason, probably because we're in the middle of the goddamn forest, that we dissolved into sometimes a sword fighting just for the hell of it, which is oddly in place because, we were just talking about fantasy. So now we're talking about sword fighting, and imagine a bunch of 14 and 15-year-old kids just swinging swords at each other. And eventually got to the point where I'm not going to put any names out there because I don't know, you could probably still get sued for some of this shit. But there are a couple of counselors that got involved too. So there's a little bit of panache involved. Like it's almost official. And now we got grown-ups, sword fighting with us with our little sticks, and involved too. I became one of the campers that actually could hold its own up against one of the best sword fighting counselors. And I did that by finding my own great stick. And I whittled it, I molded it, I did everything. This thing was like literally the size I was. So it was kind of like the equivalent of a great sword. But also I was 15 or 15, actually at that time 14. So I was like, I don't know, 4'2". So we're not really talking a big stick to begin with. I was a short kid. Didn't really matter. But anyway, basically the length of my body, I was swinging that bad boy left and right. And I could hold my own. So I practiced with this thing. I was really good with this thing. I was a sword fighter, if I will. And it evolved to the next year when I was a CIT, and there all summer that this stick became somewhat of a legendary thing. It was involved in other camp events. People came to recognize it just by sight. Pretty incredible for a stick. It actually became almost in some cases more recognizable to me, which is kind of weird because I'm the guy holding it. So kind of weird when people are recognizing a stick in the middle of the woods more than you, but that's all right. My ego grew in other ways. So fast forward to the next year, and now I'm staff. I'm a counselor. And because I'm staff, I'm getting privy into all the little things that we did in camp to keep kids engaged in and out of activities, because you're there for 2 weeks or sometimes 2 months, depending on how much you're willing to get your parents killed while you're at home and what they're willing to spend to make sure they weren't going to kill you. So, that probably depending on how long you were staying at camp. But the point being is we couldn't just rely on the normal activities. We had to come up with a bunch of different things. A lot of things that we actually ended up coming up with were kind of basically productions, skits, full on actually events. We, in one particular case, and where I'm leading to, we literally had a week-long LARP, so to speak. Josh, you would have been in your heaven. I mean, literally, we had to be in character almost as soon as activities were done. We had to be in character. We had to sort of move to our own fortified areas. We had to move along with the whole event. And it culminated with one side having a major mythical battle on the lake shore against the other side. One side was kind of seen as right. One side was kind of seen, and this was also the culmination event. So it was like a big, barbecue and stuff like that going on. But this event was basically billed as the headliner. So one side was kind of seen as the bad guys, sort of like the villains. Let's say the scoundrels, if you will. So maybe not the anti-heroes. And the other side was just pure, white hat, white cape, blah, blah, blah. I was the leader of the bad guys, and I was, no matter what, supposed to lose the major fight that culminated in this event. And it was epic. For as much as we could do, I was 15, and the guy I was up against was like 27. He was an old counselor, and he was giant. He was literally the size of a professional wrestler, to the point where in one point, he literally picked me up and threw me, which added to the event. I mean, we're in the water, so it didn't really matter, but he leapt up. I had my sword. Big fight, blah, blah, blah. But the point being is I ended up losing. Why does this matter? Because for the rest of the summer, despite the fact that we all knew as staff, and the kids knew, they didn't think it was actually real medieval stuff. Everyone knew it was fancy. Everyone. But regardless of that, I continued to get questions, even a couple years after, while I was still interacting with the camp, with individuals who knew of the event of, how did you lose? And it just would blow my mind, because I'm looking at them like, guys, it was a script. Like, we all know it was a script. What are you getting so involved with? What are you getting so locked up with? And then when you think about it, when you start thinking about it in other ways, it starts to make sense. Like, for example, people get caught up in musicians and their lifestyles because they watch music videos, and they believe literally what they're watching on the music video is the reality of that artist that they're watching. Same thing with now, because of the world we live in, social media. How many different quote unquote social media influencers are out there promoting a lifestyle that probably most likely isn't actually the real life, but people believe in it. They hold on to it. They grow towards it in good, bad, or in different ways. They construct their lives around it. It's incredible, right? In a lot of ways, they know that it's not real. They know they don't care, but they still will move towards these things that are completely false, completely paper mache, completely nothing behind the curtain. Wizard of Oz across the board in everyone's lives. And it continues to happen. So with that said, how is it that we're still caught up in the same conversation when it comes to wrestling? Is it real? Is it not? I don't know. I would argue probably both. And the person that I think personifies it the most, top 3 shit talkers in the world, Russ's soul. And I'm talking about number in no particular order of the top 3 shit talkers I'm talking about. And one person I'm going to focus on. One's Larry Bird, Larry Legend. Look him up, kids. Look up his shit talking. I'm for real. His is like out there. Other one, Milton Berle. You know what I'm talking about. And second, and the other one is
Uncle Milty.
And the other one is an ex-professional professional baseball player who, did you know, also actor? Yeah, you probably knew that because it's a profession he goes into, but also rapper. Yeah, we don't want to go into that. But an ex-professional baseball player we all came to know as Macho Man Randy Savage, aka Rando Mario Poffo, aka Randy Poffo, was the man I felt exemplified everything that we're talking about. He was both everything real and everything fake. He was both all scripted. He was both absolutely authentic as all hell. Definitely one of the best shit talkers in the world. Definitely one of the best interviewees in all of professional wrestling, no matter what era you're talking about. Definitely an individual that on the real side, on the authentic side, when you actually understood and knew him, whether you're looking at interviews where he kind of broke through and had kind of a character break, or when you're fortunate like me, who actually knows people who knew him or were able to be friends with him and understand that the man was as sentimental as he sort of would sometimes show. And because of that, he was as strong as you would think. The man was all over the place. He was absolutely insane. He was crazy because he also had the fake side. He also lived a life. He also had moments where life resembled the art and art resembled him. So, yeah, was he in situations where it was scripted and we knew who was the winner or not? Sure. But I would argue that we watched him and plenty of other people completely get physically destroyed and move into what should be their golden senior years completely decrepit, because what they're doing may be scripted, but there's no way in the world it's not real, similar to his life and similar to how the events of his wrestling persona had no way but had to interrupt into his life, become part of his life. It was impossible to separate. And I think that's the same thing with wrestling.
Woo! Oh, yeah. Yeah. I'm stepping into the ring. Yeah. Fantastic, RaShaun. I think you got right there, right? Where does the script become reality and reality become the script is always a question, right? How much is theater, and how much is your heart and soul being poured into that theater, art imitating life, and so on. I don't know if there's any more I can cram into that cliche.
No, I mean, I was flowing, so I totally missed one of the points I was going to make in the sense of his life imitating art and art imitating his life, in the sense that he had scripted moments of conflict with his love of his life, Miss Elizabeth. But at the same time, he literally had real life moments that were completely on conflict or create conflict because of her and around her and involving her in a way that you would almost think wrestling was writing his real life. And he reacted in very similar ways, to the point where it's hard to figure out who is Macho Man Randy Savage and who was Randy Poffo when reacting in quote unquote real life or away from the ring.
Yeah, because that's especially the thing with Randy Savage, because his character was deep, it was, and you didn't totally understand the mannerisms and the clothes, how are you so macho when you're dressed like like
Prince,
a new right? No, actually, no. I was gonna go for a Mardi Gras float, but whatever, you know what I mean? When you
the
dress
hats,
like that, right? Dude was just it. There was just no getting back from it, and all these guys are, badass athletes and entertainers. It was the entertaining part, being an entertainer, that really got them.
No,
don't forget, he was Bonesaw in Spider-Man.
Oh,
the only way he could up the character of Randy Savage was with Bonesaw.
The only way you could, yes, that was taking that to the next level. It was,
what else can you do with Randy Savage? I mean, short of lasers, there's really not much else you can do.
Gotta move it on up. Well, and even there, right? You have a pop culture reference within a pop culture reference, right? You've got the the origin story of Spider-Man, and what can he do, and how can he not take that great power and that great responsibility? Oh, he'll go and try and win a few $100 in a wrestling ring because he wants to impress some girl, right? It fits so nicely into that entire zeitgeist.
Well, because he was still a teenager, and that was the beauty of it, and that's why Bonesaw. Fucking Bonesaw. That's why Bonesaw was so perfect, because right, you know what I mean? You could totally see that dude in a real wrestling ring, Bonesaw. Fuck yeah, put him right over there. Put him right up against Nikolai Volkov. He fits right in.
In my classic almost getting my homework done in class without a hitch moment, I totally forgot. I was leading with the whole stick thing because that was my callback to the last episode, because it was literally my Excalibur.
Oh, there we go. All right, nicely done.
Yeah,
nice
nailed it.
Nailed the landing. Nailed the landing like Robert Patrick's Batman right there.
Yo, that mic drop will crack your concrete.
Oh, all right then. Well, I'm going to step in then, take my 10 minutes into the ring. Let's go. I'm warming up here, coming on in. Kind of like the fabulous Freebirds.
Nailed it like Hollywood Hulk.
There we go. Oh, we'll get to Hollywood Hulk Hogan. I'm, making my fabulous Freebirds reference from the beginning of Highlander, no less, when he's when he's watching the wrestling match and getting flashbacks and PTSD from the Highlands of Scotland.
I'm sorry, I will be quiet, I promise. But we all know that was actually supposed to be a hockey game, and NHL was like, nah, y'all too violent for us. They told Highlander that they're too violent.
Yeah, that was weird.
For their
that would be weird.
Sport. That would be just too much.
Just for the guy to watch. Yeah.
So, with that, I think I was, for the wrestling that I was exposed to, I'm gonna be that old guy and be talking about you kids just don't know. But I feel like got really lucky, and I hit this sort of golden age of wrestling, right? Like this early, I'm talking 80 to 86, when wrestling was definitely hitting even more of a mainstream audience. They were, trying to show it more. They started doing wrestling matches after Saturday Night Live or instead of Saturday Night Live sometimes before. Do you remember some of those things? The Friday or the
Saturday night, yeah.
Saturday Night Raw, and they do Friday night.
Saturday night main event.
Yeah, main event. Really, they were McMahon was really trying to push, and this was WWF. I'm gonna really stick to World Wrestling Federation, which I have to love. And if you don't know this, Google it. They lost their moniker to the World Wildlife Federation because they didn't want the conflict. And nothing gives me more pleasure. It makes me a little sad that it's not WWF anymore. And I stopped watching when it became World Wrestling Entertainment. However, if they're going to lose the name, I think it is fantastic that they lost it to the World Wildlife Federation. Nothing gives me more joy.
Panda.
Exactly.
Panda,
and there's a shirt out there with two pandas, one of them about to hit the other with the folding chair, which I do.
Right.
So,
it also helps that this happened during a time that it wasn't good for anyone involved, but PETA was definitely on their bullshit and running around throwing paint on anyone who was wearing fur. And onto SUVs. So literally it was happening at the exact same time in the world.
So it as I say, it makes me a little sad because that to me is this golden age. And why? Well, they were really trying to make it into family entertainment in their own weird way. There was still plenty of violence, but it was the 80s. So everything had violence in it. I mean, the Saturday night show was the A-Team, where they just all get out of their van open fire with fully automatic weapons and just somehow shoot at their feet. This was, again, family entertainment. Like, hey, let's everybody sit around and eat our TV dinners and watch this. So of course there was the violence in it, but they really were definitely trying to, they hyped the good guys, and the good guys were made to be the good guys. The bad guys were made to be the bad guys. So much so they managed to spin it off into a Saturday morning cartoon with Hulk, with the Hulkamaniac show. And of course we had Hulk Hogan on one side, this shining paragon of American virtue who owes a big ass apology to my two co-hosts. And
you too, bud.
And me. Can't forget that.
You can save it. Terry. You can save it, Terry.
I remember.
Give it to Mel.
Also in his before all that broke, he had his reality show, and they tried to make him look like goofy and stupid. And he had the local rabbi over, and he's like, "Hey, rabbi, I got the kosher meat right here on the same grill as the non-kosher meat. That's cool, right?" Wah. So yeah, you had our paragon of American virtue, which really turned out to be true for the 80s, Hulk Hogan on one side, and you had Roddy Piper on the other, right? And it was just good, clean American fun, right? Without that, with these guys just jumping off the ropes. But here's, of course, like you say, reality blends with the script, and the script shapes the reality, right? Come to find out, of course, what was really happening. These guys were hardworking. I got to give them that. The matches are scripted, people. Like, I hate to break it to you, you know who wins in that respect. But one thing I'm always going to give these guys, it's very physical. It is dangerous. They have worked out certain moves that they'll do together, but you can't throw a 200+ pound man up in the air and have him land on the mat. It still hurts. Now they train and they work very hard so that it doesn't kill them and it doesn't break a bone. But you do that night after night, week after week, year after year. It takes its toll. Totally going off on a tangent that I try not to go too long. Remember, Curly from the Three Stooges had such such intense physical damage, as did Moe and Larry. They felt that for the rest of their lives from doing their brand of physical comedy.
They were stunts.
These guys had ruptured discs and all of that. And this was just from doing those takes from the camera. So these, so it's the same thing. It's a Three Stooges act on the road. You get to be broadcast at certain times, but you're constantly flying around. You got to get up for it. Then, sure enough, the bad guy, who turns out to be actually one of the nicer guys and one of the more down to earth guys, who was one of the ones who in the end wasn't afraid to tell the truth, talked about the grind and the life on the road, right? He said it right there. He says, you got to go out, you got to do a show, you got to be totally up for that show. You get injured, you pop a pill to make yourself feel better. You drink something on the plane to help you go to sleep. Then you wake up and you got to get up for the show. So somebody gives you a line and you snort that line and you get your heart pumped back up and you go right back out, and you do it again with no health insurance, no guarantee of pay, that's right, because you're an employee at will. We have that law. And as well, that you got to put your body and your soul and your heart through that ringer time and time again for the entertainment. So there is where I'm going to say it's real, right? In the sense that, yeah, there is a performance, there's a show they're putting on for you. They want your applause. You want to give them their applause, but you are truthfully putting your body through that ringer, and you are working hard to do all that every day. All, at least in those days, as I say, to present, again, this is such a great 80s parallel, this shining good versus evil, this, black and white, this guy's the good guy, this guy's the bad guy form of gladiatorial entertainment. Where we got to see that really translated for us very well in pop culture was in Mickey Rourke's film, The Wrestler, right? No less. That did a great job, I think, of just really breaking it down in very stark terms for the audience, right? Here's this guy, he's at the other end of his career. He doesn't have the big lights anymore. He doesn't even have the big audiences. He's got to work a deli counter to make the ends meet. He's living in a trailer, but this is all he's got. And this is still what he yearns for. He yearns for that crowd. He yearns for the cheering and whatever thrill that gives him. So he's still going to try and go out and do it, even after he has a huge heart attack. And the people advise him, his doctors advise him, you can't do this anymore, right? It's going to kill you. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And where that, it is art imitating life, but that is factual information to the extent that if you look into the lives of these wrestlers, they die young. Okay. Now, the absolute apex of this era that I was talking about was when a good guy turned to a bad guy and fought the head good guy. That would be when Andre the Giant fought Hulk Hogan, right? That was, in my opinion, that was the height of wrestling right there. I remember waiting for that match. I remember it was such a big deal because here you had originally this big guy who, part of his whole thing was taking on multiple dudes, right? You would throw 3-4 guys out of the ring. He was 6'8". He's huge. And sure enough, they turned on it. I remember they did the contract sign and the stare down and Hulk Hogan looking at him and said, "That's contract signed in blood, brother." Just so over the top, and then the fight, and then somehow Hulk Hogan beats him. Are you kidding here? Come on now. There's no way. We knew that, the Hulkster had to reign supreme, but that was, to me, that was this apex moment. And yet again, you're looking at what was really happening behind the scenes and who these people really are. Andre the Giant really had that he did have that big hearted, wonderful guy appeal. If you want to have some fun and you want to scare yourselves a little bit, look up and Google the drinking habits of one Andre the Giant. Oof. It is something that is truly some of the most eye-opening and frightening things that I've ever seen. That he would say that they would ask him he would pull over the truck and he would get no less than 24 packs. And I guess he could go through them in under an hour and just popping beer cans and just tipping them back one right after the other. And then he'd take this concoction of wine and other hard liquors and put them in just a huge jug and drink it all down. It's one of the most kind of frightening things that, you could ever talk about in a story, but no surprise, add that to his immense size. And sure enough, he died young. On a little note for your education, I'll try and link it in the description, but it really opened my eyes and it influenced my part on this little piece. Look up the last week tonight, John Oliver did a piece on wrestling and professional wrestling and really why we still enjoy it as a form of entertainment. But I would really want more people to watch it because I think these guys deserve better breaks. I think these guys deserve better benefits, better pay and breaks, and something to help keep them healthy and a little bit healthier, a little bit longer, because that's where it goes to. The matches are scripted, but the pain is real. So that's gonna be my last thought for the day.
I know, yeah. I mean, it falls into everything wrong with capitalism, because it's kind of right, like you have the guys who are out there who are the face of the company, who actually draw in all of the customers. No one is there to see, Carol and HR. Everybody's there to see Jake the Snake.
Do great work, Carol.
H,
Do great work,
Craig.
Yeah.
Carol, we love you, Carol.
Yeah.
We just want to know that Greg's wife
don't-
works at
all the birthday cakes.
Don't worry
from
about
you.
Carol. Don't
Don't
worry.
worry
She's
about
she's
Carol.
fine. She's
Okay.
fine. Yeah, she's
You're
in
getting a
HR.
very-
She can work for anybody. Carol's
I-
fine.
Yeah, very strongly worded email.
We're just
But-
trying to save you, Greg. That's all I'm
very
saying.
curt.
We're trying to save you from yourself right now, but that's okay.
No, she knows that too. Carol can work anywhere. Carol will be fine.
True.
But yeah, absolutely. And it's a shock to most people when they find out, the people that you actually are going to see in the thing aren't the ones making the money. So it's like every time, like sometimes people would even get upset about how much an actor is getting paid for him. It's like, well, just remember how much the people making other people making the movie would also get paid, but you don't give a shit about them. You don't know any of their names. So the fact that wrestling took so long to actually still hasn't gotten on it. Actually, now that I think about it, they're not even close. Yeah, no. I was really glad John Oliver brought that up.
Vince McMahon embraces the bad guy. Let's just say that much, right? I don't think he separates any daylight
through and through.
Yeah. Right. I don't think he's telling you he's anybody different. So
right.
Well, several things. One, to quote our guys, well, at least my guy, Zach De La Roca, fuck the G-Ride. I want the machines that are making them. I mean, that's the story of all. If you're paying attention to capitalism, you can get stuck, or Chris Rock, when you point out you can be rich, but I want to be wealthy. Like there's a huge difference in a lot of these wrestlers that we're talking about are the ones that became rich, regardless of what they end up doing with their money, how much money they end up dying with or still have. They were the ones that became rich. There are legions of wrestlers that we'll never know that are even way worse. And it's funny because the modern day Vince McMahon, in the same sort of equivalent, where there's no script, at least not on the ring, but maybe in the background, is Dana White in UFC. And that's been something that, funny enough, also John Oliver has brought up a few different times. So that's still going on. That's probably sadly always going to be the case in a lot of different ways. People can make the argument for professional wrestling, professional sports across the board. Thing with Andre the Giant, real quick, he was sadly the nicest person in the organization throughout his entire time in wrestling. So no matter how he was depicted, any person behind the scenes, even the people he had to wrestle, were like people who would literally jump in front of trucks for him because he was just abnormally nice. I think the man, funny enough, you want to take a sci-fi approach to it, I think the man understood relatively better than the rest of us, because he understood at his height and weight, his understanding and feeling of time is a little bit different than ours, and his life was accelerated no matter what. And then talk about representation. Josh, I was with you. I watched that match live. I remember being in awe, but I couldn't ever give it the level you gave it, because representation even then was something important to me. So to me, it was just another reminder, like, oh, okay, cool. So you guys got like 3 black wrestlers that I'll never see in this kind of event, but I'm going to see this dude. I'm going to see this dude suplex a guy who's the size of a quarter of this mat that I'm watching.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. I don't need anyone to tell me if this is real or not. I'm in for the entertainment. I was jazzed up in the simple physical feat. So there's representation there. Like, holy shit, a human can do that. But at the same time, I'm like, all right, but let's be real. It's like when I talk about Superman and Batman. Like, do we have to have this conversation? Did we really? Do I have to point out why Superman's gonna win?
I think in the original WrestleMania, Andre took on like 8 dudes. It was something ridiculous. Just kept throwing him out of the ring. I mean, something along the lines of that, right? It just got out of control. But of course, suddenly, Hulk Hogan, is gonna be the one to take him down. Shout out to Junkyard Dog. Missed that guy.
Hell yeah. I know someone who knows Terry. And the sad part about Terry is, other than his like racist part that unfortunately people will always say like it has a lot more to do with how he was raised and who he really is. I'm like, yeah, both are the same. Apparently he's actually really like that dude. And the second part is, I knew someone who started to get into wrestling. It is the fucking grind you see in that movie. There's a lot of truth to that.
I think there's a lot. Yeah, that is definitely, if we get to shine a little extra light on that. But well, other than that, how did you enjoy the parade, Mrs. Kennedy, or our star child? How you doing with, other than Terry's attitude towards everybody on this panel? Are you still enjoying wrestling?
Me? No, I can't say that I do as much as I used to, because you know what? The plot just didn't change enough for me. Like, there needed to be a little more, I don't know, another way to go with it. And the truth is, there's only so far you can go with it generationally. I mean, let's be honest. Like, we're not going to get into really intricate storylines. Josh?
Yeah, I don't know what happened to him.
I
was with you.
Did we lose Josh?
I'm not sure, but I was with you.
All right. I mean, is it still recording? Josh, can you let us know?
That's what it says on the top.
Oh, shit. Nope. Josh is gone. Oh, shit.
Twilight pulled the plug.
Well, how is he gone, but we're still here? It's his thing, right?
Yeah, but I think once we agreed to being recorded,
okay,
we stopped. No, we stopped. Apparently.
Oh, that's all right. I didn't have anything important to say. That's all right.
You said give him a minute. I think we are still recording now.
I prefer to say Mintier.
Yeah.
Give me a Mintier.
I wasn't sure how to pronounce it.
I prefer to say Mintier.
Oh God, I hope he reviews this part of the recording.
Right.
Hey, thank you, Greg. I wasn't sure how to pronounce it.
Mintier. Yeah, you're welcome. Like
it's that Haitian.
Yeah, like people, they like that default French. It's like those people. I don't know if you have any friends that say sans instead of without.
I do sometimes.
You do? Yeah, sans.
I go sans.
It's not sans, it's sans.
Sans. Yeah.
Sans. Yeah, it's sans. But you could say sans. It's all right.
Here's why I will sometimes say sans. If I say sans, the person in front of me is not going to understand it. So it's more like, I'm gonna dumb it down.
Well, you got to pick your crowd for sans too.
That's true.
You got to pick your crowd. Not everybody's gonna be like, sans, and just like be able to keep going on with the conversation. Like, you're gonna lose some people. I used to work with this dude in the kitchen. He was from Virginia, so he used to use the French word for potato, which is pomme de terre. He used to pronounce it pomme de terre. Thick ass accent.
Classic.
Like, you have just butchered a perfectly good French word, but go right ahead. Right ahead. For the rest of the time I knew him, I called him pomme de terre. What up, pomme de terre?
That's an unfortunate way to get a nickname.
I'd say he's from, people from the South. They always giving out nicknames. What's up, Josh?
Hey, my computer all froze up there. So I'm sure you were talking, but like I couldn't see anything, and it dropped me out of the meeting. So
no, we were staring at each other in total silence.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah. Hey, I get it. I don't know.
It was cool. Everything was fine and not very awkward until Candyman showed up.
There you go. Uh-oh. Ready to eat the cookie. All right.
Yeah, right.
All right, Greg, we're still
not that Candy. What?
All right,
take Killer Candyman.
Do me a favor, take it from the plot got old, okay? Or the plot never evolved, wherever you took it from there.
The plot got old. The plot got old. So I'm just going to jump in and out of a couple of major things and just talking about how I thought of it and how it influenced me, because the major thing, obviously I didn't find it out until later on, was probably Andy Kaufman, who not only kind of brought it to, how we challenge entertainment, how we challenge what is real. And he said, what's real, what's not. That's what I do in my act, test how people deal with reality. And I think that was exactly it, because it wasn't that I didn't know as a kid that wrestling was, air quotes, fake. It was that I didn't know that other people thought it was so real. Like, I kind of took it like a TV show, like a show. I didn't think of it like sports. No, basketball, soccer, football, those are sports. Like, this is, wrestling. And, as deep as 1997, Vince McMahon admitted that, yes, it's a show, it's entertainment, it's sports entertainment, it's scripted. But just when you use that word fake, people have a problem with it. You don't crush it in the gym for 10 hours and then be called fake. You don't, spend your time on this shitty bus in some town out in the middle of nowhere, drag yourself into this ring, put on an amazing show, have these people hooting and hollering while you're slamming yourself all over this canvas floor, table, chair, just to be called fake. Like, that's a lot of shit to deal with. You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't want that said about my profession either. And when I was a kid, it was real. It was about as real as Knight Rider, but it was real. One thing I loved about that first generation was every ethnic group got their own wrestler. So the Russians had Nikolai Volkov, the Iranians had the Iron Sheik, Black people had the Junkyard Dog. Like, everybody did. The British had the British Bulldogs. Like, they were awesome. All right. And then, yes, you had Hulk Hogan, as we said, who was absolutely the all-American. But Tito Santana, we're not going to talk about Tito Santana. All right. Yeah, because the Mexicans need theirs. And then Jimmy Superfly Snuka. Yeah. The Pacific baby. Islanders, they're going to be big. Pay attention. It's going to be really, really important later on down the road. And everybody, the $1 Million Man and the Hart Foundation, Bret Hart and Jim the Anvil Neidhart. I mean, there's too many to go through. But in that generation, it was straight up just, I don't like you. We should fight. We're going to go back and forth for probably, 6 to 8 months sometimes, a few would last. And then we'll let it die out so we can bring it back again next year. It was basically, anime in tights. Like, that's really all. That's every season of Dragon Ball. Like, it was great. And when I was a kid, these guys were absolutely awesome. Yes, I even got the cards. Yeah, I was very part of my Mean Gene Okerlund card my Captain Lou Albano card.
Pretty sure we all
really
did.
Proud of Captain Lou. Best shit in the world.
I'm thinking of the ice cream right now.
Wasn't that?
I'm thinking of the ice cream.
Right.
The ice creams. I've been thinking of it this whole episode. I'm such a crackhead.
Well done. Well done. Roddy Piper and everything. Now, of course, you also had the WCW, which was the other wrestling. Now, if you wanted to sound like a real wrestling snob, you said you watched both. So if you knew who Ric Flair and Sting and Lex Luger were, you were the, pièce de résistance of professional wrestling. Like, you got to be that other motherfucker who really got to say it.
Avant-garde.
Yeah, seriously. And but
it was like the Hatfields and McCoys.
It was. It was, like, you wanted to be that fucking other guy. Everybody just kind of gave you side eye and said,
Rebels of the Empire.
Yeah, just leave him alone. He'll be fine. Leave him alone. It's like that one Baptist in the family. So, time went on.
Once again, we're okay with you, Carol.
Wrestling tried to get edgy. So you started seeing characters like, I even say characters, but you started seeing characters like Demolition and and the Ultimate Warrior. Yeah, right. And just these dudes were just taking it to that next level. And it was like, where does the old guard, if you want to call them the old guard, fit into this new, edgy paradigm? I have no fucking clue. I was supposed to be edgy, but when the Undertaker came in, changed the game. When the Undertaker showed up, all of a sudden, all the rules were he was theatrical to the hilt, the lights, the urn. His manager's name was Paul Bearer. Fucking coffins, the outfit, and everything. Like when he first came, it was like, all right, like this is something meaty happening in wrestling right now. This is like taking the theater and the showmanship to the next level, because like you said, this was after, they started doing Royal Rumbles and WrestleMania 3. I think that's the big one, WrestleMania 3. It was massive. It changed the game. So now it was time to, start unfolding all of the real shit that you had all of this time. So from the Undertaker, you had a lot of other people along the way. You definitely had Stone Cold Steve Austin. You had Stone Cold Steve Austin, but you also had, a lot of characters that were coming, keep saying characters, but coming over from WCW, like all of a sudden there was a lot of overlap. So you started seeing people.
It's the ABA and the NBA, right? I mean,
right.
One is the upstart and one is less popular, but the one ends up influencing the other.
Yeah.
I think not the Empire and the Rebels.
Right. But you usually saw them coming over to the WWF. You didn't see too many in the WWF going over to there until the next most edgy thing to ever happen, which was the NWO. And when the NWO came, that's when you started seeing all of was it Triple H?
Triple H was there. Yeah,
Razor Ramon. You started seeing, You started seeing Kevin. What was his name? Tall guy. Can't remember
Nash.
His name. Yep, it's Kevin Nash. And then eventually they got the biggest fish of them all, Hulk Hogan. He went over and he was the leader of the NWO. And oh my God, were they edgy. It was the NWO versus Sting, who it was the good guy. I don't think Sting ever turned heel, like he just always was. And you had Goldberg. Now Goldberg left a
Thank you.
Goldberg was massive because he left a little personal scar, because when I was working at the Providence Civic Center, he was supposed to be there for a main event and he wasn't going to show up, and the riot police came out. Like it was he was that big. That big. Like
that's not good.
Yeah. And when he wasn't going to show up, they were like, there's going to be a riot. There's going to be a riot. There's definitely.
Did I just interject that may be the only time I've ever heard of people willing to riot for a Jew? I'm just, I gotta put that out there now that you put that story out. All right, continue.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, around that time, that's when you had him and Shawn Michaels. Shawn Michaels was massive around that time. Eddie Guerrero, Bret Hart was doing a solo career. He wasn't in a tag team anymore. It was fantastic. And then the lovable, huggable, because you were talking about movies, and Mick Foley. Mick Foley came out with a documentary that we should also put on everybody's must-see wrestling list, because Mick Foley, like, he was it when it came to wrestling. Like, he was never a stud. He was never huge until he did the Mankind thing, which was really fucking weird. He did that, and honestly,
won me over.
Yeah, absolutely. And he just became, I don't know, for a little while, the face of professional wrestling. Now, nobody really leaves professional wrestling. I think even Ric Flair, who's clearly into his senior years, still makes the occasional appearance in professional wrestling. So no one's really left wrestling. But I would be remiss. I mean, there's so many names to go through, but I would be wrong if I did not obviously bring up a man who's literally been called franchise Viagra Dwayne Johnson, The Rock.
I mean, we smelt what you're cooking.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
exactly. When The Rock showed up, and don't get me wrong, I mean, like a lot of wrestlers, like this was like his third, I think, persona that he had tried. But when The Rock finally appeared and caught his stride, there had never been a person of color at the top of professional wrestling the way The Rock was. Like, he was basically wrestling's Obama. And when he did it, there's just something about growing up. If you brown people and you in the Pacific, you're just, you're just gonna have some balls on you. You're just gonna take over the world, because Dwayne Johnson, yeah, absolutely. There was nothing like his character when he came out. It was absolutely brilliant. So
I'm so glad you said when he came out, because when he came out, it always felt like he literally just kicked open a fucking door. I loved it so goddamn much. Oh my God. Every single time, it was like that first step was so goddamn.
When he would stand in the corner and just.
It's like, oh my God, he just kicked down the door that wasn't even there. I heard that bitch bang. Like,
right, yeah. It was fucking incredible. It was absolutely incredible. So, I mean, wrestling has gone on past that, and since then, obviously, and like I said, it's a bunch of recycled storylines, and they're doing much better by women. They generally don't have to wrestle in mud or in bikinis anymore, but
or actually get to wrestle.
Yeah, they actually get to wrestle. There's a lot of them. There's more than just the token two. Like, there's a lot of them now. There's a lot more diversity. They don't need to kill themselves. They get a lot more respect, if not full benefits. And it's a much cleaner production. They're trying to filter out a lot of the evil swine. And unfortunately, we probably won't ever see Dave Bautista again, but that's okay.
Hey, man. Yeah, Billy. Yeah.
I actually never watched him as a wrestler. I didn't give a shit about wrestling during that time. My heyday was literally what we've talked about. It was 86 to 88. Like, literally,
that was the heyday. Yeah.
Right. Like the culmination of the cartoon basically was kind of it. And I knew,
like I said, it's that golden age I was talking about.
Yeah. When They Live came out, and I'm watching it with my dad, I was kind of like, all right, I feel like I'm out of the weeds when it came to wrestling. And then I was pulled back in from 98 to about 2001. So the next phase that we're talking about, watching all that, I was definitely in Stone Cold. Definitely as I squealed with The Rock and all that good stuff. It was also, funny enough, personal story, I lost a girlfriend to wrestling. That's how much. That's how much I was into wrestling. And not only a girlfriend, I was a freshman dating a senior. So I was already well out of my weight class, and I already won a couple of belts. So at that point, I felt like I was heading for the WCW. But no, I lost a girlfriend to that. Yeah. But that was one real moment. But the other real moment, two real moments. I went to a taping of it. And to see an actual taping of a wrestling event does strip away a decent amount, because I mean, you're talking to a person who I wouldn't say I believe in Santa Claus, but I would like to believe in the myth when I was a kid. So some sort of wrestling I always try to keep in my heart when I was growing up. Some part real and some parts as far as the script outtakes and all that bullshit. But like when you see the event taking place and how many, like a half-hour show is literally 3 hours long, it strips away. And also, unfortunately, one of the pay-per-view events that I paid for that year was the one that Owen Hart died in. So it didn't matter at that moment as far as who wanted to argue what's real or what's not. I just watched the man die.
So exactly, that nothing really quite ties it up, right? You didn't realize you were paying for a snuff film. So I wanted on the shout out to The Rock, to Dwayne Johnson himself, who really just talk about transcending the art and, moving on and going on to that next level, being acting and everything else. He just always is my reminder of just how hard some shit is, no matter how much you want to think it is or not. He played football for the University of Miami Hurricanes, the U, no less. And take a look at that man as a physical specimen, even today. Now, there's a little bit of age going on, just between all of us guys, it's not from just clean eating that he looks like that. But going back to his football days, he was still a physical specimen and a really good player, and could not make the NFL. Like, that's something that always just really, really strikes me as just, holy God, this is just extremely hard. Clearly that, wrestling was his fallback because of his dad. And it amazes me and impresses me just how hard that's got to actually be to try and do that. Another thing that is extremely real and takes its toll on you very, very quickly. Greg, big thank you for remembering Goldberg. I just wanted to shout that. I just wanted to give that shout out. Love it. It was a little after my time, and it cracked me up though, no end, that, we finally had this breakout Jewish star in wrestling and the Jewish tough guy, but he doesn't go with the moniker. He just goes with his last name. I was kind of a little disappointed. Like, who's like his manager, Shlomo, or like
picking the name Goldberg isn't enough.
I mean, it is. But there was a part of me that wanted him to go with the Hebrew Hammer or something like that. I wanted him to lean into that shit.
His name was Goldberg.
Yeah, I know. He just went right with it. Yeah.
Look, let me, as a non-Jew, say I appreciate that the most about Goldberg and his rise, that it didn't need to have to be hit over the head with it.
Yeah.
And when you're asking for it, you were sort of in a weird sense, because Greg is actually talking about a lot of weird maturation points with the crowd of wrestling. And so when he says Obama, there's a lot of segues between reality and not, as far as like personal growth of a lot of people in wrestling. And that was part of the issue. That was part of the issue with, or what I loved most about Goldberg. He didn't have to be the Hebrew Hammer. He didn't have to be the personifications of all the worst stereotypes of the 80s that Greg talked about, which was literally the heyday that we were talking about in the 80s. Because, if you weren't the red, white, and blue, Hulk Hogan, which in itself was a characterization and a stereotype, you're left to basically hope for the junkyard dog.
And that's a good point, because if you leave this up to Vince McMahon, he will go out of there throwing bagels at the crowd.
Yeah,
sure.
It's Vince McMahon.
No, absolutely.
It's Vince McMahon.
Yeah.
It's
like, all right, don't you people love bagels? Exactly.
And the fucked up part is he's so good at it, he'll then give you cheap cream cheese and then blame the other guy on it.
That's how, right? No locks? What the hell? Well, all right, gentlemen, I think we covered it. Did a good job covering it in our usual time. I'll leave you with one hanging conspiracy theory that I think if you go back and you look at old footage of The Undertaker, he left wrestling and started a pillow company out of Minnesota. And then tried to overthrow the U.S. government. I mean, in a story that you just couldn't write, that if you wrote it as fiction, people would think it was bullshit. But check it out, Google it. I'm sick in the internet hounds on that one. Let's prove this conspiracy theory.
Last note on the NWO, that was actually really the final nail in the coffin for me to even believe any sort of reality. Because, all right, hold on. I've been watching wrestling for now the last 4 years. I've been seeing these young, very virile, very strong individuals. You're going to tell me that nearly 50-year-old legend is going to come in here and beat up these guys? All right, now we're just stretching it to the point of no return.
And you can just tell. I mean, I don't know. I feel like, when they stomp their foot when they hit somebody.
Yeah,
I'm just saying, like, you could just tell. Like, I don't know.
I'm just saying,
I never thought it was so much real as much as it was just, man ballet.
Right. I'm not, look, when you're 6 to 8 years old, it's not so much you believe in real or not, because you're probably not believing someone just got really punched in the head, but the body slams are real. So it was easy to parse those two. I'm just pointing out when it got to the early 2000s, and part of the NWO were guys who really could barely walk down the aisle to the ring. And you're going to tell me all of a sudden they're going to hop into the ring with this guy who's 22 years old, ripped to shreds on every single thing you can detect and not detect, and you're going to win? All right, no, because on the very least, you're just going to piss this guy off and he's going to rip your head off physically.
Details. Well, all right. With that, Three of clubs. Who are you going to body slam coming up this week and weekend? Got any plans to suplex anybody?
No, and the funny thing is, I really thought that you were going out with the last word, so I had something to talk about, and I was going to say it, but now I totally forgot about it, like normal. So I'll remember in probably about 30 seconds.
I will take.
We will wait for your.
So that's the only thing I can promise you in the future is I will probably cut one of you guys off and remember what I was going to say. Hopefully, relatively next 2 minutes.
Three of club, the three of clubs. Yeah. All right.
I mean, if we're talking about hills.
Greg, you got anyone to pile drive this weekend? Or is that just a little too personal a question?
That is a personal question, actually. I just wanted to say that Mick Foley movie is Beyond the Mat. Check it out. It was really good. And drop elbows, not bombs.
Always a solid piece of advice. I will say that if you haven't gotten a chance to check it out, another wrestler who I think brought their acting game up to the next level. Watch The Suicide Squad, followed quickly by the Peacemaker. So to see Mr. John Cena, who I think really does a good job. I think he knows. He knows firstly, like the opening sequences, the opening sequences to Peacemaker is just absolutely amazing. He knows the irony that he's bringing to this, and it's great. Like, his own tongue-in-cheek style that he knows he's teasing himself really makes it worthwhile. So, and you know what? His rap song is very listenable. I'm just saying, some people have tried that stuff.
You said that. All right.
Yeah, and some people have tried that stuff, and it's just ridiculous. All right, the Super Bowl Shuffle.
Not telling anyone to do that.
I'm just saying the time is now is a decent listen. It's good when you're working out. Gets you pumped up, gets you ready. So
we started with talking about a wrestler that shouldn't have been a rapper, and we're ending with a wrestler that probably should not be a rapper. That's not what I was going to say, but I'm just trying to keep up with the forecast in which I predicted.
I'm just saying it's not, may not be his true forte and all that. But hey, go on over, by the way, while you're there, and you suplex that like button on us on Facebook, The Steam Gentleman. Make sure to follow us at Do You Even Steam Bro on Instagram. Look for us. We're out there on TikTok, allegedly, and the Twitter. We maintain some space there. One day we'll figure this.
We're old. They don't want
this newfangled shit out. Who knows? Hey, what you doing? I'm downloading to TikTok. But we still try our best and all that. Just put up a little announce about our impending return.
It's coming from the meme god.
There's a lot. The memes are out there. Thankfully, they are plentiful. So thankfully, there are other people out there funnier than myself. But in the meantime, this is Josh the Birdman reminding you, as always, you keep that heat up and you keep that head of steam on.